Welcome to the lecture series Programming in C. In this lecture, we will be focusing on learning about decision making statements part 2. In decision making statement part 1, I will just recollect, we have learnt about if statement and if else statement. The decision making statements in C language are used for making a decision based on a given criteria. Say for instance, if the condition is to check the age of a person whether it is greater than 18, the condition can be given using the relational operator greater than symbol, and only when this condition becomes true we want to execute certain set of statements. So, this if statement can handle the condition when it is true. The if else statement can handle what if the condition becomes false. So, the binary Boolean value out of the execution of the criteria will help us choose the particular decision branch. If the condition becomes true, then the statements or the block of statements enclosed within the if statement gets executed, and if it is false, the set of statements in the else part gets executed. So, this is what we have learnt in part 1. In part 2, we will be learning about in depth about the decision making statements or the branching statements, and here we will be learning about nesting of if statements and how the else if ladder statement works. So, as we have already learnt, the control structures are used for executing or changing the flow of execution in a program. Supposing if the flow of execution is like, supposing if I declare age as the integer variable in my main function, then I need to check whether the age value is going to be greater than 18. So, I am just prompting the user to enter their age using a printf statement. Then I do use the scanf statement to get the values from the user. So, I use the scanf statement to read the value from the user. So, this is how the age value can be retried or read from the user. In case if I am going to use an if statement, then the if statement is going to exist or going to check the condition as age greater than or equal to 18. If it is so, we are just going to execute a set of statements if the condition becomes true, or the or condition can be executed with the else block having a set of statements. So, there are various control statements which are used in C language for changing the flow of execution. One of that will be decision control statements, the other will be loop control statement. As we have already gone through the list of decision control statements, we have already learnt the if statement and if else statement. So, in this lecture we will be focusing on learning about nested if and else if ladder. So, we will be learning about else if ladder and nested if statements in this lecture. So, moving forward, we will learn what is nested if else statement. So, from the term nested, we can understand that if something is enclosed within another body, then we can call that to be a nested body. So, likewise, if the entire if else statement is enclosed within the body of either if statement or within the body of an else statement, then we can call that as nested if else statement. The various ways of representing nested if else statement are of three ways. The first method is we are checking the first condition, condition 1. If this condition is true, we will be going for executing the true block. So, let me name this as true block if the condition 1 is true. Then after entering into the block, we are again checking one more condition, condition 2. If this condition is also true, then we will be executing statement 1. So, statement 1 will be executed when the inner if statement is true. So, we will now call the first if statement to be the outer if statement and the second if statement to be the which is enclosed within the true block is said to be the inner if statement. So, else if the inner if statement fails, that is the condition 2 fails, then statement 2 will be executed. If condition 1 fails, then statement 3 will be executed. Now, actually what we have done, the structure of the if statement is changed in such a way that the complete if statement, if else statement, the complete if else block is enclosed within another if statement. Henceforth, we call this type of structure to be nested if structure. Then the second way of representing nested if or the way of handling nested if statement is this. So, if condition 1 is true, it means this is the true block of this statement. So, if this is true, then it starts executing condition true. Condition true statement, if it is true, then there is no block here, statement 1 is executed, or otherwise statement 2 is executed. Then in the else part also we can go for checking one more condition. If the condition 3 is satisfied, then we execute statement 3 or else statement 4. So, here there are two if else statement which is enclosed within the if block as well as within the else block. So, here I can see that this complete if else statement is enclosed within the if block. It means condition 1 becomes true and the complete if else block is nested within another else statement, that is if condition 1 fails. In the first case, what we have seen, the if else statement is enclosed only within the if block whose condition becomes true, or otherwise condition 1 is true. So, if condition 1 is true, we have enclosed an if else block, whereas if condition 1 fails, we are not including another if statement, we can just go ahead with any general statement. The second way of representation is, if the condition becomes true, we are enclosing one if else block. If the condition becomes false, also we are enclosing one more if else block. So, this is a second way of representing the nested if else statement. There is a third category wherein we are checking for condition 1. If the condition 1 is true, we are just leaving out with executing statement 1, wherein we are not checking for any additional conditions. If the condition becomes false, we are now enclosing the if else block if the condition fails. If the condition 1 fails, we are checking for condition 2. If that is true, we are executing statement 2, or else we are executing statement 3. So, this is a third way of representing the nested if else statement. So, the first statement is, if condition 1 is true, we are enclosing nested if else statement, we are nesting if else statement within the true block. The second way of representation is, we are enclosing the complete if else statement or if else nested block, we are enclosing it if the condition 1 is true as well as if the condition 1 is false. The third category is, if condition 1 is true, we are just executing statement 1. If the condition 1 fails, we are including the if else statement as a nested if else statement in the else block. So, these are the 3 ways that any nested if else statement can be represented. How we will be able to understand the control flow of the execution changes in this case, because we call this as a control structure. So, we need to know how the control flow changes from one if statement to the other. So, let us consider the first condition checking to be if condition 1. If this is true, then it goes with checking if condition 2, if is again true, it goes with checking if condition 3. We can see the one with the red color arrow marks that denotes how the control flow is going to be transferred. So, on checking condition 3, if the statement is true, it executes statement 4, or else it executes statement 3. Henceforth, the control flow flows from this end to the other. And now, it again checks condition 2, if it is true, it executes statement the complete if block, if it is false, it executes statement 2. So, this is how the control flow of the nested if statement will be changing, because it is not going to be the sequential control flow, it is going to change the flow of control, since we are going for using more than one if statement. Now, coming to the syntax part. So, we in the left hand side you can see a syntax part for a nested if else statement, wherein the if statement with one condition, that is if the condition is true, it executes a statement 1. If expression 3 is true, it executes statement 2 or else statement 3. If the first or outer if statement is false, it executes statement 4. Now, how do I represent this in the form of a flow diagram? So, generally in the flow chart for the decision making statements, we will be using the decision box as this, a rhombus, to check for the condition. This will have 2 branches, one will be for true, the other will be for false. So, we can represent any branch, we can use optionally the branches for representation of true and false statements. So, let me check, we will write it as condition here, what condition we are going to check, and here if this becomes true, what is the statement that you want to execute can be given as a processing symbol, statement 1, and if the condition becomes false, how do I express that using statement 2 in a processing symbol. So, we can place an arrow mark denoting that it is a branching statement, right. Now, let me give a small if statement, for which we will try to convert that to a flowchart symbol or a flowchart flow. So, the same example let me take, if the age value is greater than or equal to 18. So, let me have a statement to print eligible for vote, eligible for vote, for voting. Else, it means if the condition becomes false, then I am just going to print it as not eligible for voting. So, this is a simple if else structure, for which I want to convert this to a flow chart or flow diagram. So, how do I do it? So, let me take the age greater than or equal to as a condition. So, I will be using the decision symbol, in which I will be checking for the condition whether age greater than or equal to 18. So, I will be having 2 branches, one for true, the other one for false. If it is true, let me go with the print statement eligible. If it is false, let us go with the statement not eligible. So, by doing so we will be able to convert the if statement to a flow chart. So, here let us do the same exercise with the given syntax. The given syntax says that if expression 1 is true, we will be executing the nested if condition. Let me start symbol we will be using as a elliptical symbol, then we are checking for the condition. If this condition becomes true, it executes the if body. If the condition becomes false, you can have a nested if condition checked, and if it is true, we can again go for having one more nested if body. If it is again false, then we can go for nested else body. So, after completing the complete condition checking and processing, we will be ending up with the statement after the if statement. So, statement just below the if statement will be executed and then the program will be terminated. So, this is how the flow diagram can be used for representing the branching, because in C language if we are using multiple if statements and we need to understand how the control flows from one block to the other, one if statement to the other. So, it is better to have a flow chart, okay, that will denote immediately that is there any problem in branching or is there any way that the program will be executed without any disturbances in the flow of the program control. Okay. So, let us take one small program in which we have a main function and we are declaring two integer type variables x and y, and we are assigning the value 0 to it initially. Okay. So, the first two statements you can see x and y are declared as two integer variables and both are assigned with the value 0. So, this statement can be broken into two statements as x equal to 0 and y equal to 0. And now, I display a message to prompt the user to enter a choice between 1 and 3. So, he can enter the values from 1 to 3. So, I am just reading the value using the variable x. Okay. The first condition what we check is if x equal to 1, it means we are allowing the user to enter his choice as 1 to 3 if he enters the value to be 1. Then again we are having one more prompting statement to make him enter the value of y between 1 and 5. Okay. So, he is now allowed to enter the value of y only when the x value is 1. So, then we check one more nested if statement wherein we are checking the value of y whether it is lesser than or equal to 5. So, value of y lesser than or equal to 5. So, if it is lesser than or equal to 5, then we are displaying the value of 5, or else we are just displaying the message as the value of y exceeds 5. Okay. Then what if the condition x equal to 1 fails? It means what if the user enters the value 2 or 3? So, this condition becomes true when the x value is 1. What if x value is 2 and what if x value is 3? So, this is answered by this else statement. So, if the value of x becomes 2 or 3, the control flow is moved on to the last else message, else statement, which just prints the value as choice entered was not 1. Obviously, the user is trying to enter the value of x to be 2 or 3. So, we will be getting the error message or a simple message as choice entered was not 1. Fine. Let us now analyze the output which we get on giving the particular values. In the first screen, output screen, we can see that the user has given the choice to be 2. The user has given the choice to be 2. So, which means that which is not falling in the true part of the if condition. The if condition checks for the condition x value should be 1. So, in this case x value is not 1. So, we are getting the this else part getting executed and we are getting the message as choice entered was not 1, right. Then we go for executing it again. In this case, now the choice entered by the user is 1. If the choice entered by the user is 1, it enters into this if block for the second time. Now, we are allowed to enter the value for y. So, choice is 1, the condition becomes true, the user is now allowed to enter the value for the variable y. He is entering the value between 1 to 5. Yes, it is true again. So, it will be executing the true block of the inner if statement, because both the conditions are true. So, we will be executing the true block of the inner if statement, which is nothing but the value of the received variable y is displayed. So, this is how it works if both the conditions are true. Then the last condition is, what if the choice is entered not between 1 and 3. Okay. Again the condition x equal to 1 fails. So, the message will be choice entered was not 1, fine. So, summarizing, the first input is going to be the correct input, I mean the x value is not falling in the range 1, 2, 3, which we are, the x value is not 1. So, we get the message choice entered was not 1. In the second case, the first if condition is true, the second if condition is also true, then we are getting the output of the true block of the inner if statement. In the third case, the first if statement itself fails. So, we will be just directly going into the else part of it and it gets displayed. So, this is how the nested if statement works in C language. Okay. So, in a program involving multiple conditions, the nested if else statement makes the program very difficult to write and to understand, because if it is going to branch with more branches, more number of conditions, it will be difficult for us. So, instead we can go for a structure called if else if ladder, wherein we are checking for one condition, if condition 1, then we are executing statement 1, then else if is the keyword used in C language with one space, else if we are checking the second condition, else if condition 2, statement 2 is executed, else if condition 3, statement 3 is executed, else default statement. If we convert this to a flow chart, you can see that if condition 1 is true, it executes statement 1. If condition 1 fails, it checks for the second condition. If it is again true, it executes statement 2. If the third condition is true, it executes statement 3. If the third condition is false, it executes the default statement. So, here we will be able to understand it in a better way compared to the nested if statements, because we handle only the else part with a new condition. The true block is executed with statements, we handle the new conditions only in the else part or only when the condition fails. So, this is how it makes us easier to understand the programming construct. Okay, let us take a small example for understanding else if ladder. Why we call this as a ladder? It is nothing but the structure of the if structure. It seems to be a ladder if we draw lines on it. Okay. So, that is the reason it is named to be else if ladder. Okay. Now, we have declared an integer variable named marks with value to be 91. We are now checking for the condition whether the given marks falls in the range 90 to 100. If it falls in the range 90 to 100, we are just displaying a grade A plus. Else if, in the sense that if it is not falling in the range 90 to 100, we are now having one more condition 80 to 90. If it is again not falling in this range, we are checking for the condition 70 to 80, 60 to 70, 50 to 60. We are checking for the corresponding range, but here you can see that if the mark is 80, how it will be handled, if the mark is 70, how it will be handled. That is the reason that we go for using less than operator here and greater than or equal to operator here. So, if you are using less than 90, it excludes 90. So, this condition will only check 80 to 89. Similarly, 70 to 79, 60 to 69, 50 to 59. If all the conditions are not true, we can just print the message as failed. So, this is how the else if ladder will help us check the grades or calculate the grade according to the scored marks. We can now analyze on the output which we are here having at the right side. So, if I enter the marks to be 91, it gives me A plus grade, 85 it gives me A grade, 72 B grade, 64 C grade, 53 D grade, and if I am giving less than 50, it gives me the grade to be F. So, that this is how else if ladder is able to give us the better way of coding the decision making statements. Summarizing this lecture, we have learnt about the decision making statements and how branching statements help us check a particular condition, and if it is true, how we are going to handle the set of statements in the true block, and if it is false, how we are going to deal with the statements. And also we have learnt about the nested if statement, wherein the complete if else statement can be given as a part of true block of if statement or true block or false block of if statement, or else in both true and false blocks we can have the nested if else statement. So, if you are handling nested if else statement, it will be a difficult thing if we have multiple statement selections. So, that is the reason we go for using else if ladder, which will be easier for us to handle, in which we will be going for checking a new condition only in the false block, or in the true block we will be able to execute the statements, and we are checking for the new conditions only in every false block. Since it goes for checking it in every false block, it seems to be a ladder structure, hence it is named as else if ladder. Also, we have seen the examples and we have analyzed the outputs of the examples to learn and get the better understanding of the nested if and else if ladder statements. Thank you so much for listening.